In this fifth video of the Music Appreciation series, we will examine the subfamily known as the keyboards. Keyboards are defined as percussion instruments that make a sound when pressing or striking a key. So the keyboards still belong to the percussion family, and the keyboards date back to the 14th century in the area of Europe. The first official keyboard instrument is considered by many to be this dulcimer. Here we see a closed, shallow box where stretch wires were then struck with two wooden hammers by hand. While this was a novel sound, it was not as user-friendly as later revisions to the keyboard family. Case in point, we see that the dulcimer led to the development of this instrument known as the clavichord. Here, we have now keys that, when pressed, would create a sound through the use of a metal beater that would strike the string. The idea here of this clavichord would be further developed into the next instrument, which is known as the harpsichord. The harpsichord was improved upon with the clavichord both by its size and by the fact that it now has two keyboards. Rather than using that metal beater with the harpsichord, now they had a little plectrum that would now pluck the strings when played. The only problem with the harpsichord is that no matter how hard or how soft you struck the key, the sound would always be the same. That problem would lead into a solution in the form of the piano. The piano was invented by a gentleman named Bartolomeo Cristofori, and his instrument, first shown in 1709, was first named pianoforte after the fact that it could play both soft and loud. Eventually, that name was then shortened to just simply piano. The instrument that we see pictured here is one of the earliest surviving pianos and is currently on display in New York City at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So how exactly does a piano work? Well, each of the 88 keys that create a piano is connected to a small felt-covered hammer on the inside. When you press that key, that felt hammer now strikes the strings tuned to that note. To stop that string from vibrating continuously, there's also another mechanism inside called a damper. When you release the key, the damper then returns to mute the string, unless, of course, you want to sustain the sound. Should you want to sustain a sound, there's actually 3 pedals at your feet that will allow you to do so. The pedal on the left, known as una corda, kind of shifts the hammer slightly so that it only plays on one of the 3 strings, giving us a little bit more of a muted sound. The pedal in the center is known as sostenuto, and here the notes would be played with a soft echo. However, the most popular pedal on the right is known as the sustaining pedal, and when pressed, now the notes will be held at a normal volume with the damper being suspended in midair. The piano is probably the most popular keyboard instrument, and we can see that there are actually many varieties of pianos. Here on the left is a grand piano. Here, the strings run parallel to the floor. The grand piano is often used in professional venues like concert halls and opera houses, and it can be made louder by simply opening the top. The upright piano, in comparison, is a little cheaper and much more portable. Strings here are perpendicular to the floor, often used in schools or other common venues where space is a necessity. To make the upright piano louder, you could also place it in the center of the room. For these instruments, while they may at first glance look like pianos and keyboard instruments, they actually have several distinctions that allow them to be other families. The one on the left here is known as a player piano. And what you would do is simply supply air by using the foot pedals at the bottom to spin the cylinder in the center. That cylinder has engravings on it, which would then tell the piano what notes would need to be played. So this instrument, though considered a percussion instrument, actually plays itself. On the right, we see the pipe organ. Now, the pipe organ technically is a wind instrument because without air going through the pipes, there would be no sound. In addition to the two keyboards that are at the top of the pipe organ, there's also a set of keys arranged just like a piano for your feet. Those foot pedals would play the really low sounds, the very large pipes. In our next video, we will examine vocals.